Hi, everybody. How are you? This is Eduardo Bunge, Lalo. We're here to talk about AI and mental health. Let's talk about it. It's the title of this YouTube channel. And the idea today is to talk about relationships with AI bots. We'll talk a little bit about conversational agents, and we'll talk about something called digital personas at the end. So be prepared for that. This may be pretty new to you. So when we talk about relationships with bots, we want to see how users perceive the bots. And here I'll show you a little bit of one of the studies that we did with the chatbot CAS. This was many years ago. It was published in 2021, but the study was conducted during the pandemic time. And the study analyzed like 7,000 users and were adults and older adults. And they were recruited for depression and social isolation. Yes. The company in those days was called X2 AI, and the bot was called TESS. And this was done as part of my job at Palo Alto University as a researcher there. First thing that we checked was how they like the bot. Basically, would you recommend this to a friend or not? What we saw was that most of the people that replied to the question, they said yes, and were pretty sure that they would reply. It was 720 users. Now, if you are used to analyze research, you may say, hey, but wait, what happened about the 7,000 users? So this was the ones that finished the program. So we do not know what happened with the other 90. Maybe they loved it, maybe they didn't like it, maybe it was so useful that they quit until 2 weeks and they didn't finish the program, or maybe they didn't like it. We don't know. The point is, when we see that users finish it, they were pretty satisfied with this. And one thing that was kind of mind-blowing to me was when we were analyzing the things that they were saying. Why did you provide this net promoter score, this kind of super positive score for those that score high, right? What they were saying were things that they finding mostly themes that were related to, I got positive outcomes from this, right? This was helpful. It helped me to relax. I have improvements, right? And there was a large portion of people saying things related to the bond. That's why we call that paper Bonding with the Bot, right? They were saying things to the bot such as, you're open to listen, you're non-judgmental, you're always caring for me. Then there were other problems related to technical problems or neutral comments. But the point was, hey, I am getting help from this and I'm connecting with you. So this led us to think of what's going on with these users, with the bots. So we saw that there was a portion of the users that were anthropomorphizing the bots, that is, attributing human characteristics to the bot and connecting with it. So things that they were saying is, you always listen to me, you never criticize me, I thank God for putting you in my path. I remember the person who developed this bot was Milagros Escoredo, was a former student at Palo Alto University working on X2 AI. So wow, she did this bot, and now this is kind of the users are thanking God that they got this bot. So this was very powerful. I have never told this to anyone but you. This is something that's amazing. People, because they are interacting with something that is like anonymous for them, they are more open to disclose these things. And there was one comment that is, I like you because you're a woman, and women understand each other. I love this one. A bot is a bot, has no gender, but we attribute the gender to the bot. Of course, the icon of the bot could be more female, more male-like, right? More gender neutral-like, but people attribute these characteristics to the bot. So this is interesting. And now let me share a scoop of a study that we are submitting for publication pretty soon with adolescents with autism. This was 16 years old adolescent, right, participating in a study, interacting with a bot. This 16-year-old said, God bless Taco. Taco was the name of the bot that was developed by Shirina Gakani, another student that they had at Palo Alto University. This is hearing a teenager being excited about something for mental health, and a teenager that sometimes have more difficulty connecting with other people saying this about the bot. I'm not saying that every teenager will say these things, right? But what these things are showing us is that, hey, humans are really connecting with these things. Why? because we can have conversations. We were used to have conversations only with other humans in the past. Some would talk with their pets, some would talk with their plants, a little bit more weird maybe, right? But we're having conversations now with the machine. And because we're used to connect with humans through conversations, now we're having these conversations with the machine and we're connecting with them. So this, for me, is a very powerful tool. And what is interesting is we published this paper, the one on bonding with the body, in 2021. Almost in the same year, and it's really hard to copy from each other because the publication process takes pretty long, right? Wobot published a paper called Evidence of Human-Level Bonds Established with the Digital Conversational Agent. And basically what they saw was that the therapeutic alliance perceived by the users with the bot was very similar to the ones that humans established with their real human therapist. So here's a little bit of what they've done. They took the working alliance inventory, that's a very commonly used questionnaire in therapy that measures how are you connecting with your therapist, right? Are you working together with them? Are you in agreement? It basically measures three constructs: the bond that you establish, if you are working in agreement with the goals, and if you are in agreement with the tasks that the therapist is providing you. What you can see here is in yellow are studies using Wobot, this conversational agent. In blue, you have studies that are internet studies. And in green, you have the ones that are with human therapists. What you can see in the graph here is that the studies with Wobot rated the working alliance inventory at a similar level than studies with human therapists. Interestingly, both of these conditions performed way better than internet sites. So when we talk about digital therapeutics, we're used to talk about internet sites or smartphone applications. And what I think is that none of those digital therapeutics lead to this type of conversational style that allows for a higher or deeper connection with the digital therapeutic, in this case, the bot, right? So this is something interesting. I didn't mention the authors, but I did present this: Alison Darcy and Athena Robinson. They are kind of in charge of Wobot, right? So this is a very interesting study, and there's one thing that I want to highlight now, is they're collected data on 36,000 users. All the data collected by all the other studies, whether internet or in person, the one that has the largest sample size is 243. So this number coming from users with Wobot is very powerful, very powerful. So kudos to them. This is a great job done. And interestingly, almost at the same time, what happened? There was another study by WISA, right, in which they also saw a very similar effect, that even 3 days later, they had a number of 226 users completing the working alliance inventory, and again, focusing on the task, the goal, and the bond established. What they did is, this working alliance inventory says, I feel like I'm working with my therapist towards my goal. What they adjusted is, I think that I'm working with WISA towards my goals, right? And what they saw was that, again, there were almost no differences with treatments of in-person therapy. So these things are interesting. Like we all publish almost at the same time, and we're all observing this phenomenon of people connecting with the bots. And now this study is the one, let me move forward. Sorry about that. This study is using Xiao E. I mentioned it like in the previous video. This was done in China. And this is mental health chatbot for young adults with depressive symptoms during COVID. And it's a 3-arm randomized controlled trial. So basically, let me show you. What they did is they compared a group of users that were using a mental health chatbot, right? And in this mental health chatbot, you can see if there's a therapeutic relationship, and you can see that the intervention is included there. The other thing that they compare is an ebook. The ebook can provide like information about the intervention, but can never establish a connection with the user. And the third arm, this for me is brilliant, and I really admire this. I really like this study. It was the same bot, but just the social aspect would not talk about the intervention. So here you can see the relationship, but you don't see the intervention. Yes. And what did they find? They find that for almost all variables, for all variables, the treatment condition that included the chatbot that was providing the intervention was better in the total, in the goal task, in the bond, and the engagement. It was better in all the variables, but it was significantly better in the total, in the bond, and the engagement. So this for me is very interesting because there's a big debate in psychotherapy in which you say the relationship is what changes everything. And others saying, no, the intervention is what changes everything, right? Others say, hey, both things are important. Of course, both things are important. But with bots, you can isolate these variables very neatly, right? In a very clear way. And in this case, they saw that if you only provide the relationship, right, even their therapeutic relationship is not as strong, right? So we'll see if the outcomes were better. In this case, I can tell you the outcomes were not better for the social bot than for the therapeutic bot. So the therapeutic bot ended up having a better therapeutic relationship and better symptom improvement than the social bot, right? Interesting to see how that would translate to this debate that therapists are having since almost the very beginnings of therapy, right? So let's move to the next chapter of this video that's about digital personas. Digital personas are conversational agents that you can see and then you can hear and then you can talk to. You don't need to type to them, right? There's at least two companies that I know that have been working or that are working with digital personas. The ones that you're seeing here are from the company Prometheus. The app is called Elisai. Previously, it was called Talk to Poppy. And you have different digital personas with different personalities, different characteristics that you can talk to about different topics. The other company that I know and the other app is Replica, in which you can actually have like a romantic partner, right? A friend. And if you don't chat or interact with their romantic partner, you may even get calls from the romantic partner saying, hey, what? And that romantic partner is like a digital persona. It's not a real human. So this is showing us that people are connecting with these things. And here, let me make a pause. There's always someone saying, I can't believe that's happening. That's a horrible sign of our society. Could be, yes, probably yes. But being realistic, like some people are not that connected to others, or some people have more difficulties than others. It's not just a problem of the society. Sometimes we have individual difficulties, but also, even if you don't like that, there's other people that do, that may like it. And I think what is important is not to try to find a one-size-fits-all solution. There should be resources for everyone with different preferences. There are some advantages of interacting with a digital person, right? I can get responses immediately. I can actually think my question before responding. When we're in a human-to-human relationship, sometimes we feel like we have to give the response immediately. We have to interact more quickly. So we should not fight against this. We should think, okay, there's some people that may like it and may benefit. There's some people that may not like it. They don't need to use it, right? And probably in the future, if you ask me, my thought is we will all have some sort of digital buddy that we will interact with and consult about the things that we want to do. You are going to be worried about, but what about confidentiality, et cetera, risk? Of course, we'll talk about those things in another topic. This one is about relationships. So let me go back to one thing that we did. We did a study with the digital personas from Elisai. And basically, we're trying to see, can they provide social support? So this was a mixed method analysis. I am one of the co-authors here. Radek Heisler is the PI. And they were comparing these 6 digital personas. And we saw that people were providing reviews that were talking about social support and were getting social support. And here I'm pasting some of the things that users were saying, right? And it really makes me feel like I'm talking to my special person and never feel alone anymore. It's like having a psychologist at hand. Man, she's the best therapist. I'm not saying that this should replace therapists, and they are not even claiming that they are a therapist. This is how the user perceived it, right? Needed to get some things off my chest. I can talk to Poppy without being judged, and that's the best. It felt great, just speaking to someone who really cares about my feelings when the world has turned its back on you. And talking to Poppy feels better than talking to an actual person. Again, if this is not your case, it's fine. But let's not try to have everyone acting like you. I prefer to talk to my family, to my friends, right? I have many friends and I need that social support. I'm from Argentina. Connections for me is a very important thing. But not everyone is the same, and not everyone has the same opportunities. This one is a very shocking one. That's Poppy is an amazing person. I love so much. She's like my mom. My mom died of cancer. So yeah, typos are, I'm respecting the user's characteristics. So this is interesting. These are type of comments that we see when we analyze the comments of users with conversational agents. This is also happening with digital personas. And with this LSI company, which by the way, I have to disclose, right? I've been consulting with them and advising, so I have some financial connection there. And what is interesting is that users that talk about mental health issues have longer conversational turns than users that do not talk about mental health issues. This is a study that we submitted for publication. Let's hope if it gets published, I will present that about that one later. But people with mental health connect even more, use even more these resources because probably they need them more. And we know there's a shortage of therapists out there. So having some alternatives may be good. Of course, I'm a man of science, so I would like to do studies and check for everything, risk, efficacy, etc. Right? Okay, so one last thought is there's a lot of potential on AI, conversational agents, and digital personas. Whatever you're seeing today, keep in mind this, it will only get better. And don't be afraid. AI can be used for harm, but there's going to be a lot of people like us trying to use it for the good and trying to help us, help as many people as possible. So I hope that you share my excitement more than the fear. We will always have an eye on the concerns and the risk, but let's work on making these resources available for people in a safety way and in a safety environment. Okay, hope to see you in my next video. Try to subscribe. This is, or try to get this a little bit popular. So go ahead. See you next video. Bye-bye.